Hi guys! Today we'll be recapping the manhwa, I Became the Male Lead's Female Friend. Please like the video and subscribe if you enjoy it, as it really helps our channel grow. Now, let's dive in. Meet Dalia Avalon. Dalia is the only daughter of a noble family, and at first glance, she has everything a girl could ever dream of. Wealth, beauty, and loving parents. Her future looks bright to those who don't know how her story goes. You see, Dalia is actually a side character from a novel named The Silver Bell Lady. In the novel, she is barely more than an extra, always at the edge of the scenes, and never quite managing to steal the heart of the male lead. The story itself revolves around the whirlwind romance between Rodrik Bowser and the female protagonist who tells the story, a lady named O'Neill with unparalleled beauty. Sounds like a juicy plot, as long as you're O'Neill. So when a young girl from another world was reincarnated as Dalia Avalon, you can imagine her confusion. Reborn again as a baby side character, she found that life as a baby was actually pretty fun. She had two loving and beautiful parents who never got sick of her and spent as much time as they could by her side, which is pretty rare for noble parents. Plus, the House of Avalon is a wonderful family and a good name to have inherited. The Duke and Duchess themselves have always been the perfect couple and had the utmost respect for one another. Maybe that's why her father, the Duke, doesn't have the heart to reject his wife's idea for Dalia's nickname, Darling. I mean, it's not bad, and I guess it does sound a lot like Dalia, but the baby hates it. And being in an infant body, there's not a lot she can do about it. Luckily, time goes by faster than she expects, and Dalia is soon old enough to talk and walk like a proper noble lady. As she grew, she became the spitting image of her mother with her father's rose gold hair. Their family lived in perfect harmony for many years, and for a long time, Dalia could forget about the plot. Then one day, the Duke received word that the Bowser family were soon to arrive at the capital. The male protagonist, whose name is Rodrik Bowser, and like many male love interests, he has a very tragic past. Unlike the Avalon family, the Duke and Duchess Bowser married for political reasons and never got along. Eventually, the Duke brought home another woman who he doted on far more than his wife, a love which split their family apart. But Dalia has no idea what point in the novel they are currently at. Maybe none of this has happened yet. Maybe Dalia will have the privilege of witnessing it all. Either way, you can't blame her for feeling a sense of dread when one day an invitation arrived, addressed to Duchess Avalon. Naturally, at a meeting of the two mothers, they both brought their children in the hopes of bringing their families closer. Before arriving, Dalia is incredibly nervous. I mean, how would you feel if you were headed toward the character you were destined to fall in love with? A man you knew would never love you in return. Well, luckily for Dalia, this time around, she has control. She can choose how to live her life and hopefully not waste it on arrogant heirs who won't love her back. They arrive at the giant mansion of the House of Bowser, where a butler escorts Dalia and her mother inside. The mothers, who are old friends, reunite and introduce their children to one another. At first sight, Dalia is totally awestruck, because the child hiding behind Duchess Charles Lena Bowser is a beautiful, angelic-looking creature with long, dark hair. That's weird. The Bowser family never had a daughter in the books. Dalia introduces herself with a smile and makes one critical mistake. She addresses the child as she. Yeah, I know. I would have thought that was a girl too. I mean, look at him. He's too pretty for words. But this child is in fact Rodrik Bowser, the male protagonist of the novel. He's just very feminine. And sensitive too, apparently, since he starts crying as soon as he's misgendered. Dalia's mother seems to have made the same mistake, which is hardly surprising. Once he's done being a crybaby and the parents have left him alone, Dalia tries to apologize for her mistake. Rodrik kind of just stands there staring at her, so her next tactic is to offer him a walk. Anything to shake the awkwardness between them. Unexpectedly, Rodrik takes her hand, and in the moment that their eyes meet, Dalia realizes she might not be able to resist the fate set out for her in the plot. I mean, can you blame her? Sure, he's a little girly, but that is definitely one handsome boy. I can only imagine what he'll be like when he grows up. An hour has passed, and the two haven't stopped holding hands. Damn, for a love interest, Rodrik sure is awkward. I guess they only learned how to be charming and smooth later in life. The other thing that makes it kind of uncomfortable is that Dalia has been so bowled by his cuteness that she can hardly keep a conversation. Plus, since she knows all about his family situation, there are only so many topics she can pick. After all, how mean would it be if she started talking about how happy her parents are when she knows his are always fighting? When Dalia looks over at one point, she finds him crying. Oh, not again. I know they're children, but come on! Enough is enough already. But Rodrik seems embarrassed and apologizes for being so weird. In a rare moment of vulnerability, Dalia decides to hold up her hand and show him how sweaty it is. Weird flex, but okay, girl. He offers her a handkerchief, and after that, the tension kind of falls away. They start again with a proper introduction rather than the formality of prince and princess. The young boy seems surprised to find that she doesn't hate him. Once he started crying, he assumed that was it, that she would find him irritating and cast him aside. Poor kid. Clearly the treatment of his father runs deep. Dalia reassures him that she doesn't hate him at all. In fact, she cries a lot as well, and there's nothing wrong with that at their age. After that, Rodrik feels much safer by her side. He thanks Dalia and even flashes a gorgeous princely smile at her when they shake hands. After that, Dalia was quickly drawn in by his gentle nature and unexpectedly compassionate side. He's so different from the grown-up character presented in the novel. This kind young boy in need of a friend tugs on her heartstrings. But his situation is only going to get worse. As the details of the Duke's affair emerge, the Duchess will slowly go mad with humiliation and anger. And before long, young Rodrik will become that cold-hearted prince from the book. Burdened with this knowledge, but powerless to stop the plot from unfolding, Dalia feels incredibly guilty, especially after the day they spent together, where he always let her choose what to eat, what games to play, where to walk. It's a total contrast from the stubborn knight he's destined to grow into, who discards anything that isn't useful and has very strong opinions. Honestly, the more we hear about the grown-up Rodrik, the less I like him. That doesn't sound like a love interest. Sounds more like a pain in the butt if you ask me. It makes discovering his interests and preferences very difficult for Dalia. Although she is understanding, since the Bowser family are famous for training knights who are absolutely obedient and never question an order. It makes sense that he would push his preferences to the side, even at such a young age. But that doesn't make it any less sad. Instead, she decides to take care of him, paying careful attention to little signals of his interest and suggesting new games to see how he likes them. Slowly, he becomes more and more open towards her, and the two of them grow closer. Eventually, the two families sit down to have dinner together. The parents on one side and the kids on the other. Ugh, I can't imagine anything worse. It looks like they're about to have an interview. With the Duke absent, conversation soon turns to how the trio met one another. As it happens, Dalia's mother originally came to the Empire for an arranged marriage with the royal family. But when Dalia's father, a knight at the time, was assigned as her bodyguard, the two fell in love immediately and just had to be together. It's a beautiful story, well worthy of a romance novel, but as they're telling it, Rodrik is noticeably quiet. While their parents are chatting away, they get to talking about their favorite foods, things they do and don't dislike, to try to get him more comfortable. I have a feeling that whole thing had more to do with jealousy about how happy her parents are, but sure, Rodrik, we can blame it on the beans. Since the prince likes peppers and hates beans, and Dalia is totally the opposite, they concoct a plan to switch their plates while their parents aren't noticing. It's kind of adorable how nervous Rodrik seems. It's good for him to have fun and take risks like this. Dalia clearly gets him out of his comfort zone and makes him live a little. Her mother thinks so too, although she's focusing more on Dalia, especially since she knows Dalia doesn't actually like beans either. Anyone can tell what's on her mind. Isn't it every noble's mother's dream to have her daughter married to their childhood sweetheart? It seems like that idea might not be too far from Rodrik's mind either. The next day, while the two are playing together, Dalia falls asleep, and her playmate sort of just watches her. Not in a creepy Twilight kind of way, but in a careful, affectionate way. While she's sleeping, he thinks about how beautiful she is, even though usually he's the one being praised for his looks. His mind starts to slip into darker thoughts about his father, so he stands up suddenly and decides to get some snacks for when she wakes. This poor kid is so clearly being abused. I wish there was something they could do to get him out of that family. Maybe then he wouldn't grow up to be the person from the novel and Dalia could end up with him instead? Rodrik's bravery runs out just as he gets to the kitchen when suddenly he doesn't know what Dalia will like. Because of the dinner they had, he asks the staff to make him something with beans. They're all very impressed with the little kid wanting to eat beans, especially since they know their mistress hates them. Rodrik is shocked. She was offering to take them from his plate before. He assumes it must be an old habit, and she's changed her mind these days. Yeah, okay, kiddo. Whatever you want to think. The Duchess Aveline catches him on the way out and spots the sponge cake on his tray. She confirms the same thing to him, that Dalia hates beans. And boy, does that send him into a minor meltdown. Suddenly, he realizes that everything she's been doing for him, every time she made a choice just for his sake or lied to try and make him more comfortable. At home, he never has the option to choose between things the way Dalia encourages him to. Not one of his wishes has ever been granted, so after a while, he just stopped asking. Being with Dalia is totally the opposite of being with his father. But after this realization, will he grow more fond of her or less? It's hard to tell. One thing is clear, that Rodrik is now doubting whether his best friend is really happy when she's with him, or if it's more out of sympathy. Oh no! This is the worst! Kids this age shouldn't be worried about that sort of thing. After all, she was just trying to be kind. From then on, there's a pretty clear difference in his behavior toward her. He isn't so awkward or easily embarrassed, and sometimes he straight up just brushes her off. In the space of a few days, he suddenly becomes very good at hiding his emotions, and seems to be observing her much more than before. Dalia just can't figure it out, until a few days later at dinner with her parents. Her mother asks if she can eat beans these days, and suddenly the whole truth comes tumbling out. About the cake and what the Duchess said to Rodrik. Everything. By now, it's pretty obvious what's happened. Her first thought is that she should apologize, clear the air between them, own up to the whole thing. That way, maybe he will trust her again and let down his guard a bit more? But every time she tries to open her mouth, the words just get stuck. I mean, it is a pretty awkward thing to have to own up to. Sorry, I actually hate beans. I just lied to be nice. What a weird thing to say. The other thing is that she doesn't want to make him feel ashamed or pitiful. And because all of this needs such careful wording if she doesn't want to hurt his feelings, she ends up swallowing it and saying nothing instead. I'm starting to see how these two characters ended up estranged in the original novel. I wonder if their falling out was over beans as well. A few days later, the Duchesses get together for a shopping trip and invite the kids along as well. Rodrik doesn't often get a chance to go to the city, so it's kind of a special occasion for him. Dalia is hoping this will be an opportunity for him to relax a little, and maybe then she can apologize. Dalia's mother asks if they'll sit together in the carriage. Her daughter says yes. The prince says no. Damn, Rodrik! I didn't realize one little incident about beans would send him this far over the edge. Once they get into the town, they head for a bakery. Dalia expects Rodrik to pretend to want sweets and eat them without complaint like usual, even though he doesn't really like dessert. So she asks her mother if they can just have tea and fruit instead, spinning a whole tale about how she doesn't want sweet food. But the moment the words have left her mouth, Rodrik accuses her of lying. Yikes! Is it just me, or is it starting to get really uncomfortable between these two? He points out that she used to say she could never get sick of dessert. She tries to explain herself, but then he brings up Beangate, and suddenly he's saying he can't stand it when she lies for his sake. He even goes as far as to say that it makes him hate himself, and makes him doubt that she ever really enjoyed spending time with him. Woof, there it is. All out in the open now. He suddenly gets up and storms off. Dalia follows him, but he won't listen. Suddenly, a waiter appears from nowhere, knocking into her and throwing hot tea into the air. It gets all over her dress and burns her hand. Immediately, Dalia is swarmed with knights, distracted by their concerned mothers. And all the while, Rodrik watches on, never saying a word. Well, there goes her shot at an apology. Everything ruined by one cup of tea. When Dalia gets home, she's checked over by a doctor who says the burn won't leave a scar. She's all fine, but in order to avoid the wound getting infected, she's told to stay at home for the next week. Firstly, that's a bit of an overreaction for spilling some tea on her hand. And secondly, how the heck is she going to see Rodrik now? The longer the situation stays unresolved, the more likely this is to be permanent. Time is of the essence, Dalia! Rather than disobeying the doctor and her parents, Dalia is still hoping Rodrik still has enough affection and that he'll come and visit. Which he should do, right? Any decent boy would, since it is kind of his fault she ended up this way. But after a whole week in bed, Rodrik never once turned up. On the final day of her containment, Dalia rushes downstairs, determined to see him. To her shock, she finds Rodrik and his mother sitting in their living room. It turns out he's been visiting the house every day. He just never actually came to see her. I can't tell if that's better or worse, honestly. This is where having a previous life comes in handy. Dalia is emotionally intelligent enough to know that he doesn't hate her. He just blames himself and feels too guilty to come and see her. She's worried that storming in will have exactly the same result. So instead, she runs back to her room, climbs into bed, and starts crying as loud as she possibly can. Well, that's one way to get attention. After all the fuss, calling for her parents and screaming that it hurts, Rodrik still doesn't show. The doctor gives her a strong dose of painkillers that he says will make her sleepy, so obviously, she doesn't eat them. Eventually, after everything is calmed down, the boy of the hour does arrive. Quietly, while she's pretending to sleep. But instead of watching her like a guardian angel, he harshly asks why she hasn't been taking her medicines. What? Is this kid psychic? How did he know she wasn't taking the painkillers, let alone the fact she was actually awake? So Dalia sits up and opens her eyes. Rodrik is surprised, but he doesn't run away. Good. Box number 1 has been ticked. Box number 2 is getting out a formal apology, but Rodrik cuts her off and starts rambling about how she must hate him and she only suffers because of him. Oh dear, this goes deep. Dalia can tell that words won't reassure him, so she switches tactics. Instead of comforting him, she asks the prince for a favor. Since he still feels guilty about her injury, he's eager to give her anything at all, he says. She extends a hand and asks him very simply to be her friend. It sounds silly, but I guess Rodrik never thought of her that way before. And he's probably never had someone he could truly call a friend. Not with his father being so controlling and cruel. Dalia finally gets a chance to tell him how happy he makes her, and finally explains why she lied the way she did. Of course, Rodrik is happy to accept her as a friend, and they clear all the misunderstandings between them. After hours of talking and reconnecting, they fall asleep side by side, finally back to how things were. Ugh, what a relief. I really wasn't sure how things were going to go for a while back there. After their little reunion, Dalia asks Rodrik if he'll come by more often in the future, like he used to before. Well, you know, beans. He says of course, which apparently signals to Dalia the start of a very important project. Getting to know the prince. She knows some of his likes and dislikes, but he's still holding back his opinion, acting like it's less important than hers. So the mission is to make him give his opinion too, and see himself as equally valuable in their friendship. No big deal. Just convince a chronically self-conscious kid with an abusive father that they have worth. Sure, piece of cake. Undeterred by the scale of the task, Dalia begins with what she calls self-respect project, and what I call mission impossible. She quickly realizes that this is not going to be as simple as she might have hoped, and asks the family librarian for help, who turns out to be exactly the right person, because he is absolutely meticulous about this sort of thing. He says that planning his work every day helps him to feel a bit more dignified. Not particularly useful for a kid around the age of 8, but okay. So Dalia goes around asking everyone what they do to feel self-respect. For her mother, it's writing in her diary. For her father, it's swords. Yeah, just swords. The butler actually has what's probably the best advice. Every morning, he looks at his reflection in the mirror and says out loud, "Today is going to be a good day." Isn't that sweet? The unfortunate side effect of this endeavor is that soon there's a rumor going around the house that Dalia has low self-esteem. All of the servants and staff start gathering to try and cheer her up with their personal cheat codes to confidence. But it's all useful. So in the end, Dalia surveys all the opinions and puts together a list of 8 solutions for Rodrik's self-respect. Is this starting to feel a little bit patronizing to anyone else? I don't know about you, but if someone handed me a list of ways to respect myself, I don't know if I'd take it all that well. 3 days later, Rodrik arrives, looking all dapper in his little robe with his hair tied back. Immediately, Dalia pulls him aside and asks about his hobbies, things he likes to do. The little prince doesn't have any special hobbies, but he does admit that he used to like when his mom brushed his hair when he was younger. Oh wait, was that the last time he had something he liked? Jeez, this kid's backstory just gets darker and darker. The other thing he says he likes is playing with Dalia, so at least that's a plus. As if she's his personal therapist, the next part of the self-respect plan is for Dalia to make them do an exercise about preferences together. She asks Rodrik to tell her things he likes, and when they find something he doesn't like, he has to say it out loud. The poor kid seems a bit uncomfortable, so instead, they decide to write an exchange diary together. Yeah, as if that's any less invasive. Basically, they both need to write a diary of what they get up to every day and how it makes them feel. Then, they'll swap and read each other's once a week. Dalia bought 2 books and offers the first pick to Rodrik. Honestly, I thought he might spontaneously combust, but it looks like the project is working, because he picks one right away, and then blushes like a baby, obviously. The second part of this plan, and coincidentally number 5 on the list of Rodrik's self-esteem solutions, is to look in the mirror and compliment himself. The boy is immediately horrified. I mean, This is a kid who thinks that everyone hates him. It can't be easy to look inside and find something nice to say. So for today, Dalia picks one for him and tells him to say, "I'm so cute." He does his best, despite a little stuttering and some serious blush. She makes him repeat it 5 times, at which point it's more like torture than self-respect. But once he's done, Dalia repeats it to him, wrapping her arms around him and saying it right in his ear. Well, if those affirmations weren't enough to get him blushing, that will certainly do it. From then on, they work through the list one by one, doing each of the things together. Soon the day comes to exchange diaries. Rodrik is a little shocked at just how much she's written, but some of the parts mention him and things she wants them to do together. He seems to appreciate those in his own quiet way. By this point, they have been friends for half a year and are closer than most siblings their age. And yet still, something is nagging at Dalia that makes her unable to relax. One day, the two of them are playing Jenga at the Bowser household when the Duchess comes in and calls him Rod for short. Dalia has never heard his nickname before and immediately asks if she can use it too. It's not like she would actually listen if he said no, so I guess it's a good thing he agreed. But then he asks if she has a nickname, and obviously, Dalia doesn't want him to start calling her darling. Not when they're like 8, so she just pretends she doesn't have one. Why do I feel like that's going to come back and bite her in the butt later on? Unfortunately, her nosy mom is hiding just around the corner and hears the whole thing. She exposes Dalia for lying, but doesn't reveal the nickname. Instead, she just acts all hurt that her daughter hates the name she made up for her and asks Rodrik to be understanding. Right. Like that's gonna help. Perfect timing, Duchess, thank you. As soon as he knows she's lying, Rodrik starts to withdraw again. Now Dalia is in the tricky position of explaining herself without actually giving the game away. She apologizes for lying, but she says she would be super embarrassed if he used it. But for once in his life, the little prince has enough of a spine to demand that she tell him anyway. I guess all those self-respect lessons are working out after all. Just maybe not in the way she was hoping. So Dalia just comes out with it. But once the name is out in the open, it's actually more embarrassing for Rodrik than it is for her. I guess the pressure is kind of on him to say it now. Go on, Rodrik, you can do it. Suddenly, enjoying his shyness, Dalia coaxes him through it, loving the way he blushes as he says it. And she doesn't let him off the hook, even when they meet the next day. He still can't call her darling, so instead he offers to do other things instead. Literally anything she wants, anything other than that nickname. Uh-oh. You've really done it now, Rodrik. I don't think he has any idea how cunning this girl can be. Obviously, Dalia immediately starts planning the best way to tease him and even gets him to double down on the promise of having him swear on it. Oh dear. The next day, she appears somewhat creepily and announces that she has decided what she wants. She wants them to roleplay. No, get your mind out of the gutter. Not that kind of roleplay. She wants the two of them to play house. Mommies and daddies. That sort of thing. Although as Rodrik rightfully points out, they're a little old for that. Dalia pulls the sympathy card and says she never did it when she was little because she had no friends. So of course now he has no choice but to go along with it. Only, she also wants them to reverse roles so that Rodrik is the mother and she's the father. She has him pretend that she just got back from work, completely ignoring his protest that maybe he should be the father since he is actually a boy. She even makes him put on a dress. To soften the blow, she promises to commit to her role and dress like a boy as well. And she does, but she's nowhere near as cute as Rodrik when he comes out. Like, did that boy have a team of stylists or something? He looks so graceful and innocent. He tries to run away, but Dalia encourages him to man up and get on with it. The sooner they finish the roleplay, the sooner he can get out of that adorable dress. The scene is set. These two are lovebirds in another world outside the imperial nobility who fell in love at first sight when they met at a festival. Rodrik was her brother's fiancé at the time, but after jumping through hoops and obstacles, they made their match work. Wow, Dalia has quite the imagination. Now newlyweds, the kids need to pretend they cannot live without each other, which is pretty easy for Dalia. But someone as closed off as Rodrik is going to struggle showing so much affection, especially under all those ribbons. From the moment they begin, Dalia is relentless. She goes on and on about their love and how it's been ages since they last had a kiss. Give the poor kid a break, darling. He's already at his limit. But Dalia doesn't know the meaning of the word chill and decides to push him even further. She asks if they can shower together, and when Rodrik tries to refuse, he gets so embarrassed that he runs out of the room crying. Now you've done it. Why what was the point of all that self-respect practice if she's just going to dress him up and make fun of him? While he's having a little cry in the garden, Rodrik does some thinking. That was definitely mean, and he knew he couldn't do it from the start. So maybe he should have just said no. But he just couldn't find the confidence to speak up. Even when she asked who was prettier between the two of them, he wanted to say it was her. He just couldn't. As the sun begins to set, Rodrik decides to head back to the house and runs into a boy with green hair who mistakes him for a fairy. And you can see why. Even with all those ridiculous frills, the prince still looks beautiful. This is Jaron Hayward, the youngest son of the famous Count Hayward. Because he's less talented than his older brothers, he gets bullied a lot. He was pushed to visit the Avalon mansion to make friends with their daughter, but he was afraid of the Bowser family and their reputation. While Jaron's parents were talking with the Avalons, he ran away to the gardens and unknowingly bumped into Rodrik, all dressed up in his pretty little frock. I hope for the sake of his reputation that he's a good actor. Now it's really time to roleplay Rodrik. From the moment he lays eyes on him, Jaron is entranced. Rodrik tries to turn away, but he catches him, requesting a name. Rodrik panics and gives him Dalia's name instead. Well, at least he didn't give him his own. But how long is it going to take for Jaron to meet the real Dalia Avalon and discover this imposter? Meanwhile, the original edition is wandering in her house when she bumps into her mother, who is delighted to find a little carbon copy of her husband wandering the halls. She's on the search for young Jaron, who is still on the run. The Duchess asks her daughter to search for him, and when she mentions the name, Dalia immediately remembers him from the book. He's not an especially important character. Just like her, he exists at the edges of the novel. Wrapped up in her thoughts, Dalia runs into Rodrik in the gardens and immediately pulls him into her arms, covering his dress and hair with her blazer. She's obviously realized the danger of him being discovered, only she's a little too late. Rodrik doesn't tell her this, of course. He lies and acts like he's never met the Hayward son, who is conveniently standing right behind them. Ugh, not again. This is going to become a tangled mess. Thinking quickly, Rodrik grabs his playmate and tugs her away, running off together. Little do they know that Jaron saw the whole thing, giving him his jacket, the way they talk like close friends. And the worst thing of all is that he mistook the real Dalia for Rodrik Bowser. So now he thinks Rodrik and Dalia are in some kind of early age affair and has all these heartfelt imaginings about his first love being unrequited. Ugh, all this because that silly girl wanted to play dress up. If word gets through to their parents, she's going to be in big trouble. Eventually, the little Hayward was found and returned to his family. Probably a little heartbroken, but otherwise unharmed. A few days later, Rodrik finds the courage to scold his playmate for putting him through the whole dress-up game. For once, Dalia is quick to apologize. Probably because even someone as reckless as her knows it went a little too far. But as time goes on, innocent little Rodrik changes bit by bit. Self-respecting and more dignified, he's able to hide his emotions, but not as coldly as before. So basically, he's just growing up. They continue writing in their diaries, but Dalia is worried about upsetting Rodrik since he actually has a spine these days, so she never tries to read his entries. That is, until one day when he accidentally knocks his diary off the table, revealing a particularly emotional page. It says all sorts of mushy stuff that you would never expect from a kid like Rodrik. Things like, "Dalia makes me so happy," and "I hope this moment lasts a lifetime." Well, hello! Where has little Romeo been hiding all this time? Dalia, of course, is delighted. She basically takes it as one giant compliment, but it's not all cherry blossoms and romance. While Rodrik can't help but smile, there's something dark behind his expression. Little does Dalia know, his father, the Duke, has been planning to return to the north, where the Bowser family traditionally resides for quite some time now. Rodrik doesn't want to leave, of course, but he doesn't have much power to refuse. A few days later at dinner, the Duchess Avalon mentions that Rodrik's birthday must be coming up since his mother has been busy preparing for a party and sending out invitations. This is shocking news to Dalia. Not only did she have no idea his birthday was coming up, but she never actually knew his real age? And even more surprising, he's turning 10 years old. What? That little pipsqueak? But he's shorter than Dalia and so dainty. How could he be turning 10? The last blow is when the Duchess mentions plans to have the two lovebirds dance together at the event, which means it's time to crack out her best shoes and dresses and learn how to dance like a lady. The kids take lessons together, which is totally adorable, since Dalia is absolutely taller than Rodrik and he's taking the lead. Rodrik turns out to be a natural dancing star. Dalia, on the other hand, is a travesty. She keeps stepping on his feet, and their dance teacher thinks she's going to embarrass her whole family at the party. So, no pressure, bestie. After their lesson is finished, Dalia is in a bit of a mood about how much she fumbled, so Rodrik suggests they go do something else to cheer her up. For some reason, his best idea is to go horse riding. I guess if you're a noble, that's basically the same as taking your bikes for a ride. But he doesn't realize Dalia has a huge fear of horses from one time when she was little and got thrown off one. Ever the gentleman, Rodrik suggests they ride together on the same horse, which is actually super smooth of him because he's an expert rider and she's afraid. Dalia spends the whole time clinging to him from behind. I see what you're doing, Prince Bowser. Rodrik takes them somewhere that can only be reached on horseback, with a beautiful hillside view of the palace. Some gardener told him about the place, which is the second or third time now Dalia has heard about this person. The gardener said to visit the spot whenever he was having a hard time, to use the view to get rid of his negative thoughts. Wrapped up in the beauty of the moment, he starts to mention the possibility of him leaving, and then changes his mind at the last minute. You can see where this is going, can't you? He's not going to tell her until the very last moment, and Dalia is going to be devastated. Ugh, I can't watch. On the way down, Rodrik takes the path a little too fast, and his horse ends up tripping on a rock. Before she knows what happened, Dalia has been thrown from the horse. The last thing she sees is Rodrik reaching out for her, and then nothing. When she opens her eyes, the guards are all around them. Rodrik is collapsed beside her, his body curled around hers to protect her from the impact. Oh no! What happened? Did he take the fall for her? Dalia calls his name, but he's unresponsive. And above his eye, there's a single dribble of blood from some kind of cut. The guards speed them back to the Bowser Manor, where Dalia waits by his bedside until he wakes up. None of their injuries seem serious, and already both of them have been treated by a doctor for minor cuts and scrapes. But clearly, the shock of the incident has left the young Avalon princess a bit shaken. While he's on bed rest, Dalia visits the Bowser family every day to take care of her best friend. Every morning he insists that he's totally fine, which he very clearly is. I mean, how bad could his injuries have been? He had like one scrape. Regardless, Dalia is unrelenting. One morning, she walks in to find the Duke Bowser by his bed with his hand raised as if he's about to slap his son. Dalia doesn't think. She puts herself between the two and boldly stands her ground, even when the Duke challenges her. He even threatens to hit her too, but she's way too smart for that. She starts talking sweetly about how worried her family would be if she came home with a single scratch on her body, and what a shame it would be if her father stopped trading with the Bowser family. Atta girl, Dalia! That's the way to get him. She manages to fend him off, but after that, the Duke won't let her visit very frequently. And even on the rare occasion that Rodrik comes out, he's very distant and seems to be avoiding her. Dalia asks once or twice if anything is the matter, but the poor kid has got so good at masking that by now, it's impossible to tell what's really going on beneath the surface. Oh dear, something bad is coming. You can just tell. Finally, the day of Rodrik's party arrives. Dalia is all dressed up in her pretty pink gown, but can't find the birthday boy anywhere. She's a little worried he hasn't fully recovered, but gets distracted when her dad asks her to wait in the guest room while he talks to the adults. She's been there all of 2 seconds when the man of the hour arrives. And boy, does he look dapper. Seriously, look at that outfit. Give his stylist a raise immediately. He walks straight over to her and asks her to dance. Dalia can tell something is wrong. His face looks all red, but Rodrik insists that he's fine. She tries to protest, but he clenches his fists. If they don't dance now, there won't be another opportunity, he says. Dalia is just worried she'll step on his feet or embarrass herself in front of their guests. She doesn't seem to realize the weight of his words, what he's truly saying. But one way or another, she goes along with it. She takes his hand, allowing herself to be led to the dance floor, even though her mind is racing. I can't help but feel sympathy for her, honestly. Who would want to dance in front of so many nobles when you know you've got 2 left feet? I sure as heck wouldn't. The music starts to play, and Rodrik leads her assuredly, smiling at her the whole time. And what do you know? She dances perfectly. The audience applauds them both, and before Dalia even knows what's happened, it's all over. She confesses to Rodrik that she gets nervous in front of strangers. She could never have done that without him at her side. Then she goes on to talk about how they can dance together at other parties and get better every time. Yeah, you see Rodrik's face? I don't know if you're going to get another chance, bestie. After a moment of silence, both kids suddenly talk over one another. It seems like Rodrik might have been about to admit what's on his mind, but Dalia insists on speaking first, because of course she does. She gives him a gift, his birthday present, a beautiful old-fashioned stopwatch. And get this, it has the date they first met engraved on it. How romantic is that? It's just as heartbreaking as it is heartfelt. And Rodrik knows there will never be a better opportunity to be honest. So he tells her, then and there, that he's leaving. At long last, the day has come, and Dalia's fears have come true. The Duke returned to the capital with his mistress and immediately asked his wife to return to the north. The Duchess stood her ground and demanded that the mistress return from whatever hole she crawled out of first, and eventually he gave in. Honestly, Dalia isn't stupid. She had a hunch that something like this was coming. And besides, she read the book, remember? Although Rodrik hasn't given her any idea of when he'll return, she remembers from the plot that he's about to endure a lot of hardship. In the original story, they won't return to each other's sides for another 5 years, when war breaks out and the story really begins. Before leaving, the Duchess sent an invitation to the Avelyns requesting to see Dalia one last time. She and her mother come to visit, but Rodrik isn't there. So she goes to seek him out, since she has a feeling he'll be in a secret spot, the inside of a hollow tree. Just as she expected, he's sitting there, sulking. At first, he tells her to go away, but she's obviously not going to leave. Instead, she starts talking about the first time they met. That manages to get him talking. He even admits his first impression of her wasn't great. Well, of course it wasn't. She literally misgendered him. But as Dalia points out, they probably wouldn't have ended up such good friends if she hadn't made him cry that day. She asks him to write often and thanks him for being her friend. That's when Rodrik starts crying. He falls into her and quietly says he doesn't want to leave her. Oh, guys, stop! I'm gonna cry. This is so sad. Who knows when they're going to meet again? I guarantee whoever comes back in 5 years won't be the same Rodrik we know and love. Dalia must be thinking the same thing. Before getting in the carriage, she warns him that there's a lot of hardship ahead. Whenever it gets too tough to bear, she says, he has to cry. Sounds kind of weird, but I guess she's trying to say don't bottle it up. She gives him a handkerchief and promises that when it gets wet, she'll come and see him. Kind of a weird pact, but the gesture is sweet. And with that, she leaves. The unbreakable pair have been split. Of course, Dalia is quick to write him letters before he's even arrived up north. The first few days without him, she's so bored that she kind of just sleeps the whole time. Her and Rodrik used to do everything together, and she literally has no other friends. For Dalia, this whole thing kind of just sucks. Her parents are a little worried, so they decide to organize a gathering of other children in the hopes that she'll make some new friends. But she assures Rodrik that no one will be as close to her as he is. Rodrik's reply is pretty stark in comparison. His life is ruthless. All he does is study and train, day in and day out. But he's trying his best, hoping that if he does well and fulfills his duties, he'll be able to return to her soon. He's such a pure-hearted kid, but I don't think that nasty Duke is going to let him back anytime soon. Meanwhile, Dalia has started being sociable with the other noble children of her age. It seems tiring, and she hasn't found anyone she really clicks with yet. But next spring, her birthday is coming up, so she leaves a not-so-subtle hint in her next letter that if he's bored, he should spend some time trying to think of a birthday gift for her. I love this girl. She never misses an opportunity for presents. The Duchess Bowser helps him pick out a dress, but Rodrik's personal present is a hair tie he picked himself. Of course, she absolutely loves it, though I have a feeling she would have liked anything Rodrik picked. She promises to wear it every day and wishes that on her next birthday they can see each other again. In their letters, both kids express a longing for the other that is far more mature and romantic for their age. Rodrik is starting to imagine how different he'll be when they next meet. Maybe he'll be taller or bigger than she remembers. Dalia doesn't like that idea at all. Like all little kids, she wants to be taller than him so that she has the upper hand. One day, she floats the idea of coming to the Duke's estate to visit for his birthday. But after that, there are no letters for a while. Eventually, he writes back, explaining that his father found out about their communication and took away all his letters. He says if the Duke found out that the two kids wanted to meet, he would be locked in his room. So it sounds like a no on the whole birthday visit plan. I mean, what did she expect? A rose-petal path to the north? The Duke we know would never allow that. They try and try again to organize a way to see each other. But as the years pass, it becomes clearer and clearer that they have no power against their parents. The situation at the Bowser estate gets worse and worse, and it becomes more difficult for Rodrik to get his letters through. In the end, he sends one final letter, knowing it may be his last. Dalia sends one too, addressed to a different name in the hopes that it will get through to him. She tells him not to worry and asks him not to forget her. Everything will be better someday, and they will see each other again no matter what it takes. Which is true. At least, according to the book, it will be. But Dalia also knows exactly what he's going through right now. How his mother is slowly losing grip of her sanity in the face of her husband's adultery. At first, when they went up north, the Duchess and Duke would have quarreled far less. For a while, Rodrik had some hope that they might live in peace. But then the Duke betrayed his wife, bringing home his mistress, who was heavily pregnant by now. It didn't break the Duchess. Not at first. She did her best to stay strong for her son, as all mothers try to do. But then all hell broke loose when she was framed for attempting to kill the baby with poison. One of the maids told the Duke that his wife had ordered her to place a small amount of powder in the mistress's drink every day, which would not only harm the baby but also kill the mother. The Duchess was shocked. She knew her husband was a villain but had no idea that he would believe such a thing, and even worse, imprison her for it, without even giving her a fair trial or any kind of investigation. In the end, the mistress had a miscarriage, and so all the rumors seemed to be confirmed. Rodrik was the only one who stood by her side, knowing that his mother wouldn't hurt a fly. Slowly, after being thrown in a cell and refused visitors, the Duchess began to lose her mind. One time, Rodrik went to visit her, and she confused him for the Duke. That's so sad! No child should have to watch their parents slip away like that. After some time, Rodrik was no longer allowed to visit his mother. Supposedly, she was put on medication to help her mind heal, but he had no proof of that. Communication with Dalia was cut off, and he couldn't even trust the maids who took care of him. So it's no stretch to say that within a couple of years, Rodrik was left completely and utterly alone. Eventually, one of the butlers was kind enough to hand over Dalia's final letter. In it, she wishes him well despite all the hardships, tells him it's not his fault, and reminds him to always just let it out when it all gets a bit much. Yeah, thanks, Dalia, but I think if Rodrik took that advice, he'd be crying every day. However, the encouragement in her letter gives him the strength to finally approach his father, in the hopes of clearing his mother's name. He walks straight into his office and says right away that the Duchess is not the kind of person to use poison. They both know that. The Duke seems completely unmoved, and calmly replies that anyone's nature will change under pressure. He conveniently ignores the fact that the pressure in this situation is him and his adultery. But anyway, Rodrik tries a different tactic, assuring his father that he visited her often. If she was planning something, he would have been the first person to know. Again, his father shoots down this idea immediately. Apparently, he doesn't think his kid capable of noticing anything and thinks he's foolish for trusting his mother in the first place. Yikes! He really is a nasty guy, this Duke. Then he pulls out a little vial of poison, laying it out for Rodrik to look at. It was found in his mother's room, he says, as if there's no way someone could have just planted it there. Rodrik insists that when he last visited the Duchess, he didn't see anything like that in her room, not on the shelves where it was supposedly found. And he points out, even if it was his mother's, why the heck would she leave it somewhere so obvious? Yeah, actually, that's a really good point. The Duke must think everyone around him is stupid. What kind of criminal would leave the biggest piece of evidence out in the open like that? Rodrik begs his father for time and resources to find the real criminal. After all, his mistress really did have a miscarriage, so clearly someone is out to get them. But the Duke will hear none of it. He comes straight out and says that he doesn't care who really did it. The point is, the Duchess has a reason to harm their family, so he decided to make an example out of her. After all, if someone that close to the Duke can be disposed of so easily, what could happen to Rodrik, his own son? Oh my god, that is evil! This guy can't be human. How could you say that to your child? He even makes fun of Rodrik, saying that he's become more like an Evelyn than a Bowser. What he needs is a bit of re-education, the Duke says. And then he says something truly chilling. Hasn't Rodrik ever wondered why all the Bowser Dukes have been so alike? How they all end up acting so inhuman and cruel? He throws his son over to a pair of guards and tells him with a terrifying smile that soon, he will be just the same. Okay, this is actually a little scary. What kind of messed up family is this? What kind of person openly admits that they're cold and inhuman and then goes ahead and makes their kid the same? This guy is seriously twisted. Rodrik is thrown to the ground in a small dark cell as the doors close before him. Initially, he can't see very much. The first thing he notices is the smell. kinda fishy, like rotting carcasses. That's because it is. That's right, the Duke Bowser just threw his 12-year-old son into a dead body dump. A little cell with all the corpses that are difficult to dispose of. I'm not sure what kind of character building this is supposed to be. Isn't something like this more likely to make a kid go crazy than cold? Poor Rodrik is already freaking out. After all, he has no idea how long he's got to stay here. It could be a few hours or a few months. With the Duke in charge, nothing is impossible. It's not long before Rodrik is banging on the doors, begging his father to forgive him. He calls for his mother, for the knight who trained him, his servants, anybody. But he hears nothing, no sound of footsteps or key in the door. So he starts calling out for Dalia instead. I guess he's hoping that she'll keep her promise, to come and see him when the handkerchief is wet. But even Dalia can't save him now, not in that horrible, dark little prison. After a while, as you might expect, he stops banging on the door and asking for help. As the days slip by like water, it becomes easier and easier to stand the smell. Soon, Rodrik is even grateful for the cell. In there, he has no mother or father to worry about, no bickering family members or injustice to fight. When the knights return for him, Rodrik is quiet and limp. He can't even remember the names he was calling for anymore or why he was holding on to that handkerchief. As they pull him away, he drops it in the blood and leaves it behind without a second glance. Damn! I thought this manhwa was about princesses and fairy tale romance. When did everything get so dark? The servants start to gossip about the state of the Bowser home. The Duchess is going mad, and the Duke is deliberately torturing his son, who has become hardened and cold just like his father. Rodrik begins to find the everyday cycle of life boring, so it almost seems like he's asking for it when his father suffers an attack. He runs in to find blood everywhere, his face in ruins as his mistress weeps over his wounded body. And what does Rodrik do? He just laughs, like a total psychopath. I guess that's what he's become now. Let's hope Dalia isn't expecting her old playmate back, because I have a good feeling that kid is gone forever. Speaking of Dalia, one day she wakes up crying after a dream that her father was called away by the royal family to fight in the war. That doesn't happen in the original novel, so she can't figure out why she keeps dreaming it. The war itself isn't due to start just yet, but since the story takes place a few years after the war ended, Dalia has no idea when it will start and what will actually happen. All she knows is that it lasts for nearly a decade and that they are victorious in the end. But a lot can happen in a decade. In a mad sort of mission, she starts writing down every detail she can remember from the original novel to try to get more information about the coming conflict. The best clue she gets is that the Empire could have won far earlier than they originally did if they hadn't been so ravaged by disease. So Dalia dedicates all her time from then on to finding more clues, gathering any information involving diseases and doing her best to find a cure. That's a woman in STEM, all right! Good for you, girl! But throughout all of this, she continues to have horrific dreams about what might happen in the future. Her parents, noticing how hard she's been working, encourage their daughter to take a break and not overdo things, which is easy for them to say. They're not the ones having prophetic visions of future atrocities. Soon, news arrives down south of the attack on the Duke. He has been injured for half a month, and there's no sign of improvement. Obviously, this is bad news for the family, but it's also bad news for the Empire at large. You see, the Duke Bowser is in a unique position at the northern border of the Empire. It's his responsibility to protect the people from the monsters and barbarians beyond the border. And with the Duke wounded and half their legion eliminated from a battle with the monsters, things are not looking good. The nobles are trying to decide whether to donate more money to the family or if they should pull out and abandon the Bowsers. It seems like all of Dalia's work and investigation so far has been building up to this moment. She approaches her father, knowing that he's going to call a formal meeting about the Bowser family soon. So she asks if she can attend herself, which seems like a long shot if you ask me. I mean, we all know Dalia is clever, but who would let a random noble's daughter walk into a meeting full of generals and dukes to decide the fate of the Empire? I probably wouldn't. But as ever, Avalon is nothing if not obsessed with his daughter, so it probably won't surprise you that he agrees to let her attend. The Avalon family is known for their merchant background, so Dalia understands that the vassals won't assist the Bowser family out of mere sympathy. During the meeting, she presents all the evidence and research she has gathered, proving that nearly half of the kingdoms have allied with Rowendell, the Empire's enemy, and confidently states that a war is likely to break out in a few years. As expected, everyone thinks that she's just overthinking since they believe that even if more kingdoms unite, they are no match for their empire, which our girl acknowledges. However, she encourages them not to disregard the possibility, and if it does happen, she knows that the House Bowser will be a great help. They believe that the chance of a war breaking out is low, so they think that if they can help the Bowsers now, they might just face a huge loss. But who says they'll offer their help without expecting something in return? Of course, Dalia has something in mind to gain as well, and that instantly draws everyone's interest. She happily mentions that they will request authority over the Bowser Guard. House Avalon has never been involved in a war, but House Bowser has many seasoned knights. If they assist the Bowsers, they will help them recover, and if they end up winning the war, Dalia boldly claims that they'll share half the glory. Surprisingly, these grown-ups take a child's advice to heart and decide to take a chance. The only catch is that they don't know whether the House Bowsers will grant them military power. It is not supposed to be easy, considering that they are asking for authority over House Bowser's central force in exchange for financial support, but Dalia trusts Rodrik will not perceive this as a threat. She said what she said, and yup, Rodrik just accepted her proposal without a second thought. This totally triggered all the vassals of House Bowser, and you could feel their pride taking a major hit. I'm so relieved this cutie hasn't totally lost it. Most noble families have turned their back on them, so if they have any other solution, then he is ready to hear them. But all he gets is straight up shade about how he's just like his mom, who's got zero dignity. Wild! This triggers him to wreck the table with his magic-infused sword because, in this family, it's all about who's got the power. By proving his strength, he makes it clear that they have to follow his lead. That's right, let them know who's in charge! Dalia is thrilled to receive Rodrik's letter accepting her offer, so now all they need to do is send supplies to the north. Next on her plan is to meet someone in a very shabby place. She bangs on the door, and when a freckled lady with red hair opens it, our girl straight up flexes her insane wealth. 120 million gold. No biggie. Hestia Eustace is a gifted person, and in the novel, she'll be the first to discover a cure for the Empire's plague, and then takes on the position of head healer for the Imperial family. But she's really obsessed with money. After graduating early with top grades from the Imperial Academy, she decided to take a job at Count Jorben's pharmaceutical laboratory. However, Count Jorben becomes envious of Hestia, who is more brilliant than him, so he steals all her medicine formulas and kicks her out. Dalia then persuades Hestia that if she helps her, she can give her more gold, and given the girl's obsession with money, they continue their conversation inside her home. Dalia gets straight to the point, knowing that Hestia has been researching a contagious disease that her late grandfather was working on. Dalia also knows Count Jorben has blocked all investments, which is why she has temporarily stopped her research. Dalia shows Hestia a gold-filled bag, offering to fund both her research and monthly living expenses, and guarantees that if she discovers a cure, she will provide Hestia with the best laboratory in the Empire, as well as a noble title, so that even Count Jorben will be unable to disrespect her. Seeing the crest of the House of Avalon stunned Hestia, prompting Dalia to properly introduce herself and emphasize her intention to invest in her, which excites Hestia so much that she takes Dalia's hands, declaring that she is her master and assures her that she will develop a cure within 5 years. Soon after, when Dalia turns 17, they get a letter from the Imperial Palace, and the war begins much more quickly than in the novel. The day has come for her father to say goodbye before heading to the war. Dalia wraps her arms around her father, who's feeling a bit guilty about putting such a big responsibility on her due to his absence, and she reassures him that she will safeguard Avalon. Meanwhile, her mother, filled with sadness, begs her husband to ensure his safety, and he embraces his family, prompting that he will be back as quickly as possible. Dalia then watches her father's carriage leave, hoping for his safe return. It's been 1.5 years since the war started, and the knights at the Imperial garrison finally identified the commander in charge of the Allied kingdoms and decided to finish him off quickly. So, the Crown Prince, who's the commander-in-chief of Hipperonia's Imperial army, asks anyone who can bring him the commander's head. Out of nowhere, 18-year-old Rodrik Bowser steps up and volunteers, which causes the knights to react because he is too young, and the task is too dangerous for him. Goodbye to the long-hair cutie, and hey there, handsome sleek boy. However, the Crown Prince stops them all and asks Rodrik directly if he can do it, and he says yes without hesitation. Despite all the doubts, when they all see Rodrik walking back, holding the commander's head, the knights react favorably, proving that the House of Bowser is still powerful. Duke Avalyn is totally over how everyone is celebrating when not too long ago they were all convinced Rodrik was a goner. He decides to step outside for some fresh air when he is taken aback to see Rod hiding and bleeding. Dad-in-law to the rescue! When everyone first gathered for the war, Duke Avalyn was taken aback to see Rodrik again. Unlike before, when he was just a fragile little kid who always smiled with Dalia, now he kills without any emotion. His eyes have that cold look, almost as if they were empty, which reminds him of Duke Bowser. Duke Avalyn made several attempts to chat with Rodrik, but the boy always appeared a bit uneasy. However, tonight, he can't bring himself to look away as he sees Rodrik in distress. He supports him in walking, and as a dad himself, he gently reminds Rodrik that it's perfectly fine to lean on others when life becomes difficult. He then mentions how Rodrik and Dalia are alike, both keeping their burdens to themselves. This discovery brings a warm smile to Rod's face as he finds a connection with Dalia. "Excuse me, sir, if you're hurting, then why you gotta be so cute?" Anyway, I'm really happy he didn't forget Dalia. It's hard to believe it's been a year and a half already, and the war is still going on. Our girl is facing her own war too, as she works tirelessly from morning to afternoon, handling all the duchy tasks. In the evenings, she dedicates her time to checking with Hestia about the cure. There's just one major problem after the cure's ready, and that's figuring out how to share the news with everyone. She can't simply announce that she has a cure for a new disease. While some might see her as a hero, others are likely to be suspicious. In fact, they might even think her family played a role in spreading the illness. She really needs to figure out how to distribute the cure without raising any eyebrows. But it's tough to come up with ideas when she's buried under a mountain of documents to sort through. Just then, her father's secretary, Lowell Kidman, advises her to check the chief secretary candidates' resumes and reminds her to make her choice today. All heirs of House Avalyn require a chief secretary, as they are required to study abroad. Their secretary will assist them and continue to serve them until they become the head of the house. She's feeling a bit down that, due to the war, she can't study abroad. Even so, she still takes the time to check the resumes, and only one applicant named Jaren Hayward seems familiar. But what truly stands out is how great he is. After graduating as valedictorian in economics at the Imperial Academy, he worked as an investment analyst for the Rubobel Corporation. This company isn't your typical corporation. It's one of the most well-known merchant companies. Therefore, working as a strategist there means that the applicant is a genius. Her confusion grows as she wonders why someone as remarkable as him would want to work for her. Curious, she turns to the next page to find out why he applied, but all she finds is what appears to be a love letter where he declares his undying love to the woman who has his heart. Oh my gosh, this is that boy whose first love is Rod in a dress! 19-year-old Jaren Hayward's first love heartache had such an impact on him that he devoted himself to his studies. As if fate were working in his favor, he learned that the House of Avalyn is looking for a chief secretary for their heir, Dalia. Jaren totally gets that the lady is probably struggling since her dad is off at war and she's stuck handling all the duchy stuff. But the way he's picturing Dalia with black hair is just so funny. He believes that this is his time to become someone Dalia can rely on. So who's gonna tell him that his first love has gone to war? Jaren finally arrives at the Avalyn Duchy, feeling a mix of excitement and nerves as he prepares to see his first love after 8 years. When the door opens, revealing the stunning Dalia with her rose gold hair and crimson eyes, he can only manage to say, "Who are you?" The room is filled with Dalia's laughter as Jaren turns all red from embarrassment after they both cleared up the misunderstanding. After having a bit of fun with the seaweed, Dalia asks him if he still wants to continue with the interview. When he responds with a yes, they dive right into it. As expected, Jaren answered all of her questions with ease, which is a good sign. So she decided to give him a not-so-hypothetical question. If a plague spreads during a war and she happens to have the cure, what would his plan be to spread it secretly? As a strategist, he believes they should share the cure recipe because if it is an infectious condition, huge quantities of the drug will be required. But if she wants to make money, small amounts will be produced and sold exclusively for a high price. However, when Dalia states that she's not doing this for money, he realizes that this is not just an interview question, which is actually preferable because it may help her find the solution faster. Jaren then advises her that they build a ghost organization, which is a firm that does not belong to any country, requiring them to grow it on their own without assistance. Similar to how major businesses set up slush funds. However, getting this started requires a significant amount of capital since they'll need to purchase small-scale businesses from various countries. Jaren happens to have plenty of connections, whether from the academy or from his time at Rowendell. Dalia is surprised by how he planned everything out, so she asks if he already knew she would bring it up, which makes him react. Something about his attitude makes her less trusting of him, and she is now wondering if Jaren knows the future as well, or if he predicted the war or something. However, when Jaren covers his face while admitting that he always wanted to help her one day and how he tried his best to prepare something for her, Dalia realizes that he has been in love since he was little. She even playfully teases him that she will introduce him to Rodrik next time. Anyway, if money is their only problem, then our girl is totally set, because the moment she stepped into this novel, she was all about those investments. So yeah, she's basically a billionaire now. We are time skipping again, and it's been 4 years since the war. The Hipperonia Empire is doing well, having successfully brought all the allied nations to surrender. All that's left is to take down the Rowendell, but this leader nation is quite a tough opponent that the Empire is finding challenging. The envoy they sent failed, so Duke Goldman's second son, River, suggests that they send another one as he is confident that they can persuade Rowendell to give up. Rod, on the other hand, has a different idea. Because the Rowendell fortress is surrounded by a mountain range, they should have their mages hurl fireballs, turning the fortress into a sea of fire. This sparks an argument between the two, as River considers Rod's proposal to be inhumane because it includes burning down innocent people's homes. But Rod claims that doing so will allow them to end the war in just one day. Oh no, it seems like my boy is not scoring any points with Dad-in-law right now. After Duke Avalon helped Rod with his injury last time, they started talking about their families. Since then, the Duke has seen that Rod is becoming impatient to wrap up the war, and is even putting himself at risk. All that conversation probably made him miss Dalia like crazy. The plague is at last here and is spreading rapidly. Duke Avalon is more concerned about his family than himself. And just then, Rod arrives with a package from Dalia. Rod can't take his eyes off the package, so father-in-law has no choice but to open the box right in front of him. Inside, there's a letter from Dalia along with a so-called health tonic for him. They did it! They made the cure! Following that, rumors about the cure circulated, and the majority of those who contracted the disease got cured as a result. This leads the Crown Prince to suspect that this is part of Rowendell's plot. So he investigates and discovers the company that created the treatment. They offer to hand over the recipe cure in return for the mine in the Felitos mountain ranges, which are known to be empty wastelands. The Crown Prince assigns Rod to oversee the meeting with the trade company, and if he finds any questionable activity, he orders him to kill everyone involved. Oh, are they finally meeting after so many years? But for real, the Crown Prince has some trust issues. My girl is saving lives here, you know? Rod doesn't blame the Crown Prince for being cautious, but he wonders why he put him in charge of this when Duke Avalon is supposed to be in charge of negotiations. He then recalls the tonic Dalia provided the Duke, leading Rod to believe that this has something to do with her. This prompts him to instruct his knights to disguise themselves as assassins, and during the negotiation, he directs them to kill all of the Crown Prince's men in case Dalia is truly involved. Wow, he isn't even sure yet he's doing it all to protect his girl. The negotiation is over, and it appears that our leads did not meet because Dalia is shocked to learn from Jaren that her father did not attend, but Rodrik did. She appears serious until she reminds Jaren that their company has negotiated with his first love. She just won't let the poor guy forget his first love. Perhaps until they're old. On a serious note, Jaren asks Dalia why she wants the mine in Felitos, and she simply responds she needs the wasteland. Yeah, because that mine is actually a money land because it's full of magic ores, which the female protagonist discovered in the story, but they do say finders keepers, right? Before Jaren leaves, he warns Dalia that someone may be helping them because someone has been eliminating the Crown Prince's men. Thus, he suspects it is someone who opposes the prince. After a year and a half, they finally made their way to the Rowendell fortress, and Rodrik was the one who fearlessly beheaded the king. My sweet boy looks so relieved that the war is finally over, and yay, Duke Avalon is finally back home with his wife and daughter. All of her hard work and preparation paid off. Her dad and Rod are both safe, and the epidemic has been successfully managed. The next day, Dalia receives an invitation letter to celebrate the Empire's victory, and she can't help but think of Rodrik, whom she hasn't seen in around 10 years. She drops into her bed, feeling anxious about whether things will get super awkward between them at the party. Today is the day, and even though the red ribbon Rodrik gave her is worn out, she decides to wear it as a hair decoration. The Duke and Duchess Evelyn are really aging like fine wine as they arrive at the banquet, while our girl in her white and red dress looks extra sexy and cute. Dalia can't handle the crowd, so she settles down on an empty bench. Soon, Jaren approaches her, and wow, black and gold really suits him. He lets her know that the Crown Prince is still looking into their organization, but keeps running into obstacles thanks to that person who's lending them a hand. They then hear ladies gushing about Rodrik, prompting Jaren to casually comment that Dalia must be nervous to see her friend again after such a long time. But this makes her tease him again, saying that it must be him who is nervous now that the master of his heart has returned. Just then, Rodrik's name is finally announced, and he looks absolutely regal in that white and blue outfit. He pays no attention to anyone else and heads straight to finally hug the person he misses the most, Dalia! I didn't expect him to be so blunt, and I love it! She was surprised to see the cutie pie all grown up and manly now, which makes her feel a bit awkward that she starts addressing him formally. So Rod quickly asks her to stop that. He then extends his hand and invites her to dance, but as they twirl together, neither of them feels brave enough to speak first. Well, our guy here has that blank expression, plus he is now tall and charming, so I get why she feels that way. Dalia isn't quite sure what to say. Perhaps asking how he is or discussing his contributions to the war would be nice? Maybe she could apologize for not visiting him or ask if he still has the handkerchief she gave him. But in the end, she chooses to talk about something completely random. Feet. She appears a bit shy as she tells him that she's not stepping on his feet anymore since she has danced a lot and feels more at ease now. She then asks if he still remembers her promise to show off her dance skills when they meet again, and she feels so surprised when, at last, Rod shows her that familiar smile, the very same one he wore in their childhood days. Dalia relaxes and beams at him, realizing that he's still the same best friend she's always cherished. There you go! My baby's finally reunited! Dalia is pleasantly surprised when Rod notices the red ribbon in her hair, so she lightly asks if he still remembers it. This makes him shyly say that he does, since he chose it himself, which brings a big smile to our girl as she realizes he remembers something from years ago. He twirls her around with a smile, complimenting how lovely the ribbon looks on her. When the music stops, they are approached by a charming blondie, River Goldman, who Dalia recognizes as the best second male lead of all romance novels and has stayed single throughout his life. This was the good boy who had a little disagreement with Rod during the war. She is now beaming and waiting for Rod to introduce her to River, but uh-oh, my guy looks annoyed right now. So she decides to speak with River herself and make an introduction. The charming gentleman kisses the back of her hand and introduces himself with a warm smile, while Dalia asks him to just call her by her name, which he does with a hint of shyness. She thinks he's really cute and handsome, and the fact that he's a second son makes him seem like the perfect husband for her, so she's now considering him as a potential partner. Oh, I totally forgot that our leads aren't in love yet. At least Dalia isn't. Dalia is all smiles while chatting with River, but Rod isn't in favor of it, so he interrupts their conversation, causing River to apologize and step away, leaving the two alone. Our girl is really upset and goes straight to Rod to talk about how rude he was to River. Rod just responds by asking if she likes River so much that she can't stop smiling, and then he makes a comment about her standards dropping. I'm supporting Rod in this situation. Someone is getting jealous already. The two head outside, where Dalia is trying to explain that she's just being polite with River. Meanwhile, our cute Rod has his arms crossed and is sulking because he doesn't believe her. She keeps sharing her take, and eventually she acknowledges that perhaps it is indeed her fault for neglecting her friend, whom she hasn't seen in years. With a playful tone, she declares that she won't be swayed by anyone else when the most handsome man is right beside her. She keeps complimenting Rod, highlighting how much more capable and esteemed he is compared to River, all while wearing that sweet, apologetic smile, which makes him give in and forgive her. Now that's done, Dalia brings up that his mom, Duchess Bowser, is actually staying with them. The Avalon family welcomed the Duchess into their home, understanding that she had been unfairly accused. Despite her struggles, her mother did everything she could to support her recovery and reassure her that she was in a safe place. I'm totally glad they took action, and Dalia's mom is just wonderful. A great wife, an amazing mother, and a fantastic friend. As time went on, Duchess Bowser slowly became her usual self again, but Dalia couldn't help but feel concerned because Rodrik seemed to have forgotten about his mom and never looked for her. But looking at his expression now makes her think otherwise, so she keeps sharing about how his mom enjoys going for walks these days and has taken up a flower arranging hobby. She doesn't want to pressure him into seeing his mom, but she does want to offer him the choice. So she mentions that if he's curious about how his mom is doing, he's welcome to visit the Avalon estate. Today, Dalia is excited to show Rod the Avalon garden and how it remains just as beautiful as it was before. His mom then arrives and is so delighted to see how much he's grown while she gently plays with his hair. With that warm smile, she asks if they can go for a walk together, making Rod look at her with those tired yet hopeful eyes before saying yes. Meanwhile, Dalia watches the mother and son with a sense of relief and quietly steps away, giving them the space to reconnect. After a bit, Rod finishes his chat with his mom and goes to find Dalia, spotting her sitting on a bench. The two of them decide to take a walk, and she shares that she didn't expect him to actually come since he never asked about his mom. Rod shares that he got busy, and she understands, considering he had to take care of the Bowser family for his father and also had to fight in the war. The mood is just right, with those pink skies and Dalia's hair dancing in the wind, as she excitedly says how they should have fun while he's still in the capital. She might take him to some great restaurants, and she's also excited to introduce him to her friends, Hestia and Jaron. She takes his hand and hopes that their time together will help him lighten his burdens. She truly wants him to be happy, regardless of what path he chooses, and she is confident that she'll be there to support him. Our girl be saying such sweet things that she'll have all of us falling for her, and she expects Rod won't too? Rod is taken by surprise when Dalia wraps her arms around his neck and leans in for a kiss. But friends, sorry to disappoint you, that part is merely a dream. He immediately sits up and flushes, questioning himself for having such a dream. He looks particularly haggard today as a result of not being able to sleep for days following that dream. He blames it on the day Dalia held his hand, but in his head it progressed into a kiss, prompting him to bang on the table during his meeting, forcing him to cover his red face right now. Ethan Miller, the 4th Division commander of the Bowser Guards, is a blunt gentleman who questions Rodrik if his behavior is related to the rumors that he and Lady Dalia are lovers. Meanwhile, Dalia is being pestered by their vassals about getting a husband, and they even have a list of all suitable single noblemen in the Empire. They keep cornering her until she has no choice but to run away from them. She rushes to her mother's office and requests that the vassals cease pressuring her into marriage. Mommy finds this amusing, but she does tell her that it is common for her age to already have a fiancé. But she understands that her daughter is more focused on work than on men. She playfully squeezes Dalia's face, knowing that she has high standards, and reassures her that she has no intention of just picking any random man for her. Dalia feels a wave of relief, but then she suddenly freezes in confusion when her mom brings up Rodrik. Sweetie, you better follow your mom, 'cause mothers know best, okay? Okay, good. Her mom once considered arranging their engagement, and she even discussed it with Duchess Bowser. However, Dalia just can't picture having Rod as her husband because it would feel really awkward for her. Mommy shares that the engagement was called off before they could really take it in due to the situation with the Bowser family. She reassures her daughter that there's no rush and believes she'll find her soulmate when the time is right. Jaron and Hestia are in Dalia's office now, where she's showing them the portraits of her potential suitors that her vassals have selected. She's asking for their help because she really doesn't want to marry just any guy. When the two ask what her ideal type is, Dalia quickly responds that it's her parents and starts sharing the story of how her mom, who was meant to marry a prince, fell in love with her dad, a knight assigned to escort her. They eventually fell in love, and since their relationship is forbidden, her dad decided to become a duke, which he had previously turned down, so he can steal the prince's fiancée. Fortunately, the heavens were on their side and they happily married, and their love brought fruit in the form of Dalia, the stunning and talented woman. Jaron and Hestia look so done with her and only want to know her ideal man in detail, prompting our girl to begin enumerating how she wants someone attractive and sweet. She should be his first lover and more. Basically just Rod, but she doesn't know yet. Jaron has to stop her yapping and remind her that no one will ever match her description. Dalia wonders what their ideal type is, and Hestia responds simply, someone rich, whereas Jaren is looking for someone pure and innocent with long black hair and large eyes. Just say you want a female version of Rodrik, we won't judge. Anyway, Jaren mentions the rumors circulating in the capital that Dalia and Rodrik are in love, which causes her to spill her tea before questioning where this rumor is coming from. Well, ma'am, you two kept dancing throughout the ball without changing partners. Jaren believes Rodrik is a good choice, but Dalia quickly cuts him off, declaring that they are only friends. She also notes that she cannot marry Rodrik because he's the oldest son, making both of them heirs to their families, complicating the issues of their successors, prompting Jaren to suggest that they can have 2 babies. As if childbirth in this era is easy. She also mentions that she'll need to travel frequently for business, while Rodrik will be stationed at the northern border. This means they'll become a long-distance couple, which isn't ideal for her because she wants a joyful life together with her soulmate. Dalia is also confident that Rodrik feels the same way and will dismiss the rumor as absurd. It doesn't matter if Rod likes her or not because she knows he thinks marriage is a burden. When they were kids, Rod shared his thoughts on marriage, saying it can lead to pain because there's always a chance that someone might change their mind, and that can hurt, just like what happened with his mom. He then expressed with a relieved tone how happy he was that he and Dalia are friends, because no matter how many times they argue, they can always make up, which means they can stay together for a long time. This is when Dalia decided to be the friend that Rodrik can always count on. Wait, so he was the one who put her in the friend zone first? It seems like these two besties are in sync because Rodrik is now letting his comrades know that the rumors aren't true. However, Ethan still thinks that maybe Lady Dalia likes their commander since he has noticed how extra sweet she is to him. The others also mention that, from what they know, she is really selective and would even turn down young nobles who tried to approach her. They keep insisting on this, prompting Rod to tell them to stop. But he gets interrupted by this blunt, handsome man who confidently claims that Dalia likes him. This thought immediately resonates in Rod's mind, but ultimately, he still believes it's impossible. He clearly states that he and Dalia will never be lovers because he knows her better than anyone else, and that friend of his has really high standards. It's the kind of love that can only be found in novels. He still remembers how Dalia was. So cute. Dalia is at a party to interact with other guys, hoping to put the rumors about her and Rod to rest. But it seems like no one is brave enough to approach her at the moment. Everyone is definitely afraid of your guy. She's feeling annoyed because the guys are only giving her those sneaky looks, but no one is actually approaching her, so she thinks it's best to head home. However, she is really surprised to see River at the party. When he comes over, he explains that he didn't plan on coming, but with a blush on his face, he admits he came because he heard she would be here. This makes Dalia feel so flustered, and with the fireworks behind her, her heart is bursting with colors as well as she realizes that she might have just found her soulmate. Dalia and River enjoy a friendly chat, and she shares how her father has spoken highly of River's bravery and contributions during the war, which has left him feeling flattered. She also knows that he and River have had their disagreements, which River admits, but it seems he holds Rodrik in high regard and admires how he became a swordmaster at such a young age. Dalia proudly tells him that Rod is an outstanding guy, which causes River to smile and realize that she must know Rod better because they are childhood friends. She denies this, claiming that she hasn't spoken with Rod in 10 years and only recently reunited at the ball. But River disagrees, claiming that people dwell on memories, so even though they haven't been together for 10 years, he is certain that Rod still has some traits from back then. Aw, this guy seems like a genuinely kind guy. Can our girl have both? If not, give me River. As the two of them dance, Dalia feels a sense of joy knowing that River is a good guy. But her mood shifts when he asks if she and Rodrik are in a relationship, so she quickly denies this. Upon hearing this, River can't help but smile with relief, expressing how glad he is before saying his goodbye to her. Even after the party has ended, Dalia still has questions as to why River said he was glad, leading her to assume that he is glad there is no relationship between her and Rodrik. She's now squealing and hugging a pillow as Rodrik sits there drinking tea, wondering whether she's gone insane. She is the one who burst into his office out of nowhere to discuss the war merits that the House of Avalon should receive. But given how distracted she is, he suspects it's because of the rumors about them. Anyway, he urges her to be serious now and talk about business. But Darling simply responds it was an excuse to see him, making his heart skip a beat. Now I feel bad for Rod. She then asks whether he has already received a marriage proposal from the Imperial Palace, as she has heard that the Emperor wants him to become his son-in-law. She heard some rumors at the recent party, but it really dismays Rod that she only talks about marriage rumors involving others and not about the ones concerning the two of them. Noticing Dalia's confusion, he stands up and mentions that he has a lot to take care of, suggesting that she should head out now too. Dalia is now in the carriage, feeling a bit uneasy about whether she made a mistake. Then she starts to think that maybe Rod is really seeing someone, perhaps the female lead. That could explain why he seemed upset earlier. Maybe he's worried his partner might misunderstand his relationship with her. She decides to set it aside for now, since it's not the right time for the female lead to appear, but it's still really bothering her. Lowell shares with Dalia that Count Jorbin is requesting the Avalon to invest in his new medicine, which her father is thinking about, although most of the vassals are opposed to it. You may have forgotten who Count Jorbin is, so to refresh your minds, he's the one who kicked Hestia out because he felt jealous of her incredible talent. After Dalia comes up with an idea, she rushes to Hestia to see if she can make a better version of the medicine that Count Jorbin is working on. Dalia holds Hestia's hands and reminds her of her promise to give her a title and the best research facility. Dalia is excited to share that she can now fulfill one of her promises, so with a bright smile, she announces that Hestia will soon have a brand new research facility equipped with the latest technology. But there is a catch. She must create a new drug, and with a determined expression, Hestia swears not to sleep until she does. After that, Dalia cheerfully tells Lowell that she will lend the Count the money with no interest, but with a playful smile, she adds that she'll take his pharmaceutical lab as collateral. Hestia is a cherished friend to Dalia, as she was the one who created the cure that brought the war to an early end and saved her father from the disease. Now she feels like the right moment to make the Count pay for his actions. So wicked. Keep it up, darling! The plan is simple. Lend the Count the money and use his lab as collateral. She is confident that the Count will take the offer since there's no interest involved. He might believe that all he needs to do is sell his new medicine and pay her back, but that's when her evil plan comes into action. She'll ensure it won't sell since Hestia is set to launch a similar but better version of the medicine even before he can get his out to the market. Count Jorbin is almost certain to face bankruptcy because people might believe it's fake medicine, and just like that, Dalia will take over his lab. She is absolutely thrilled and is already celebrating, scaring Jaren, and he believes she can make the devil cry as well. She then informs Jaren that she will meet with an insider who can provide information on what Count Jorbin is trying to create so that Hestia can get a heads up and create a better version of it. Dalia and Lowell are meeting with the guy, and she discovers that the Count is creating a stimulant that helps relieve fatigue and can boost stamina. The informant even heard that the Count is claiming that after taking his medicine, the person can stay up all night without feeling tired, and he shares all the details in a dessert package as a clever disguise. As they leave the dessert shop, she bumps into River, who is there to pick up some treats because he's heard the shop has the best cake around. Dalia shares that she's here to buy something too, but the reality is that this bakery is more than it seems. It's actually a secret hideout for informants. River feels a bit shy about inviting Dalia for a chat, and she happily agrees. While they stroll, River shares that he had considered sending her a letter, but he feels a bit anxious about whether she would appreciate it if he reached out without a specific reason. This is making Dalia feel so giddy inside because it means River has been thinking of her all this time. So even though she stutters, she lets him know that he has permission to write her whenever he wants, making this cutie blush. As they continue walking, Dalia spots a shop featuring ribbon that closely resembles the red ribbon Rod gave her. River offers to buy the ribbon for her if she likes it, and she responds that she can just buy it with her own money. But here comes this poetic guy again with his comforting words. He mentions that when someone gives her a gift, it's filled with memories of that person, making it even more special. This leads Dalia to give him a sweet smile as she carefully asks him to gift her with his memories, which leaves this bright sunny man a bit flustered. I'm all about Team Rod, but if they keep making River this adorable and such an excellent pick, I might just start shipping these two. Dalia has been staring at the bracelet River gave her for I don't know how long, and she is now rolling on her bed, feeling butterflies in her tummy because he is gorgeous and sweet. Fortunately, she returns to her normal self after remembering that she has work to accomplish, which is to sell the medicine Hestia produced. Every one of the Bowser Guard's captains is truly the complete package. Lux, the captain of the 2nd Division, looks great with that long silver hair. Leona, the lady captain of the 3rd Division, definitely has a baddie vibe with her short red hair. And we can't forget Ethan, the handsome and straightforward captain of the 4th. Then there's Michelle, the lady captain of the 6th Division, who appears to be a sweetie on the outside. After introducing themselves to Dalia, they all become serious, thinking she might be here to give them orders to take someone out. Whether it's an individual, a group, or even on a national scale, they're ready for anything. Dalia is experiencing some culture shock, so she quickly shares that House Avalon has created a stimulant to help with fatigue, and she would love for the 4 of them, the incredibly popular Knights of Bowser, to help promote it. She then shows the catchphrase she wants them to use to promote the product, and it ends with a big smile and a wink, which leaves these poor knights extremely horrified, prompting them to ask for Rodrik's help. Sorry guys, your commander has no power against Dalia, and he orders them to pay attention to her while keeping a straight face. Before leaving, Dalia gives Rod one of the stimulants and, with a smile, asks if he has time for her. She couldn't ask him last night because he made her leave, which made him go quiet before he apologized, but she interrupts him, as if to say it's not a big deal. With a beaming grin, she reminds him that they promised to spend time together and relax. Just like that, everything is back to normal, and Rod finally cracks that smile again. The captains get goosebumps seeing their commander smile, but they rush to him, believing that Dalia has feelings for him and that he should make a move. Rod simply urges them to get lost and walks by them, since seeing Dalia smile earlier has turned him red and left him wondering why his heart goes doki doki. I'm switching ships again. Call me weak, but I love blushing boys. Today is the day they're going to spend some time together, or should I say, have a lovely date. Dalia looks so soft and radiant, while Rod is looking extra handsome in his suit and gloves. Today's coach lady is Leona, who is so cheerful as she compliments Dalia's outfit. She almost lets slip that Rod did too, but she stops herself when she senses her commander giving her a glare. Dalia is taken aback when Rod easily lifts her into the carriage, causing her to blush and even wonder if he could carry her in bridal style. To her eyes, Rod is still that same little kitten, but now she's beginning to see that he has grown into more of a strong and handsome black leopard. They arrive at the men's clothing store, and while Dalia and Leona are happily picking out clothes for him, my boy, who isn't quite used to this, sits in the back looking a bit grumpy and asking them to stop. Our girl sweetly uses her charms to persuade Rod to try on more suits, and even brings up the time they played house, making him flinch. In the end, he gives in to her wishes once more. After shopping, the two head out for some tea and desserts, and Dalia is feeling so happy right now, enjoying moments she had only wished for before. With a cheerful smile, she asks him if they can do this again next time, prompting Rod to return that smile as he replies that he would love to. He truly seems to be the happiest when he's with her, doesn't he? Cutie. She then wonders if he will wear the suit they bought today during the peerage ceremony, and when she hears that he will, she feels thrilled and confident that he will surely stand out since she is the one who chose it. As they chat about the ceremony, Rod glances at her, and after a brief pause, asks if she has a partner for the event. Her response shifts the mood as she reveals that she's actually going with River. His brows furrow as he can't believe she's going with another man instead of him. That definitely crushed his heart. You should have followed your captain's advice to make a move. Now it's too late. Dalia playfully teases him about whether he's considering being her partner, completely unaware that she's hurting his feelings. He stops her, looking a bit grumpy, and mentions that he never asked about who she plans to go with. Dalia feels confused again and wonders what she might have done wrong, especially since he was the one who started the topic. Today, while Dalia is going about her usual work, she can't help but think about Rod's bright smile, something she hasn't seen in quite some time. She's not sure exactly why he got so upset, but she believes that if they go out again, he'll be back to his usual self. She is currently thinking about their next adventure, perhaps heading to the lake for some boating fun or visiting their family villa for a lovely picnic. I love how the roles have turned. Dalia is the one doing the planning and Rod is so baby girl coded. Lowell happily bursts into her office to share the good news that Count Jorben has finally gone bankrupt. They quickly took his laboratory, and Hestia is now beaming with joy in her new space. She's especially thrilled that she was able to physically take down the Count with a little kick here and there. Hestia then shifts to a serious tone as she shares with Dalia that during her work on their new medicine, she discovered that Count Jorben's product was actually drugs. This situation seems a bit suspicious because Dalia believes that the Count is aware he'll eventually be caught, and his sponsors will likely get involved as well. Dalia then gasps as she realizes this, thinking back to how the Count went to House Avalon to borrow money, which basically means he was trying to set them up for a trap. She jumps right into the investigation, but she hasn't really figured out who the mastermind is yet. She discovered that someone had been generously funding the Count, but then suddenly pulled out. Now she feels quite sure that someone is secretly and carefully targeting her family. She is now on the carriage with Jaren, who notices that she looks a bit tired. He kindly suggests she should take the anti-fatigue medicine, which makes her tease him again for being so adorable and caring about her. They are heading to the ceremony where she was meant to go with River, but instead, she finds herself with Jaren since the preparations for the peerage ceremony are taking a bit longer than expected. Jaren gives a confident smile, knowing that Rod will be so happy to see that Dalia came with him instead of River. This confuses her, and he clicks his tongue, commenting on how clueless she is. I am feeling worn out because of Rod and River, so I'm going to take Jaren with me to find some peace. When they arrive, Dalia is surprised by how luxurious this banquet is compared to usual. So when she sees Rodrik, she immediately congratulates him on getting his title. But our baby girl here just crosses his arms, and his face clearly says he is not in the mood. Dalia decides to introduce Jaren to him, but it's clear he's the reason Rod's in a mood, and he straight up asks who's that weed head she's with. He casually mocks her, wondering if River isn't good enough for her that she's also chilling with this dude he calls grassy-haired. Dalia is puzzled by his behavior, but she quickly clarifies that Jaren is her chief secretary, which helps calm Rod a bit. Sadly, it's too late. Jaren's heart has been broken again. Sir, you don't need to be so mean. Rod remembers him, but before Jaren can introduce himself, he starts crying and runs away, leaving Dalia feeling somewhat lost while Rod playfully calls him a coward as always. My baby just got totally roasted and got his second heartbreak. The ceremony has begun, and Duke Avalon is being honored for his contributions to the war, filling Dalia with pride for her father. Next, River Goldman is granted a territory and given the title of Count, which makes Dalia squeal at how handsome he is. The last one to be called is Rodrik Bowser, and even though Dalia isn't squealing or anything, her face is all red and her heart is going, ba-dum, ba-dum. Darling, what is this? It seems like she might be holding back her feelings for him, doesn't it? Rod receives a special sword that is traditionally passed down to the Imperial family, which makes everyone think that the Emperor is really trying to make Rodrik part of the Imperial family. He also receives the title of Duke, making him one of the 3 Dukes of the Empire, which makes Dalia feel like he has really moved far away from her. She feels a little surprised when Rod looks her way, so she beams at him and promises to do her best to be someone who can stand beside him, and Rod responds with a satisfied smile. After that happens, the party kicks off and Rod finds himself surrounded by nobles, while Dalia can't help but feel concerned that he might have to head back to the north soon. Rod's eyes are focused solely on Dalia, and when he sees her sad expression, he quickly approaches her and leans in, asking if she's not feeling well. But their chat is interrupted when an Imperial Knight tells Rod that the Emperor wishes to see him, making Dalia wonder if this is about the Emperor wanting Rod to marry his daughter. Rod really doesn't want to leave Dalia by herself, and he's concerned she might get the wrong idea about things. However, he feels he has no choice, so he kindly asks her to wait for him. Dalia chooses to step outside for a breath of fresh air, feeling a bit tired of the gossiping crowd. She finds a cozy spot near the fountain, completely unaware that she's about to encounter an angel with a 6-pack that will make her nose bleed. River quickly rushes over to her and offers a handkerchief before lifting her to place her gently in a chair, but Dalia stops him and requests that he put on a shirt first. Yes, sir, very distracting. Now they're sitting on a bench, and River shares that he accidentally bumped into a servant, which resulted in wine spilling on his white suit. So he tried to handle it quietly near the fountain. After a while, her nose stops bleeding, but to her surprise, he gently pulls her to lean on him, suggesting that she should rest a bit more. River seems quite concerned that Dalia is pushing herself too hard lately, which is why she experienced a nosebleed. Honestly, sir, her nose bled because of seeing your body. Anyway, she gets comfortable leaning on his shoulder as she admits that maybe she was indeed overworking herself. She mentions that she is still stuck in the same spot and not making any progress, which is something River can relate to, because there was a time when he also thought taking a break was only for failures. He looks at her and says that if she needs someone to lean on, and if she doesn't mind that it's him, he's available anytime. Dalia takes a brave step and asks if he can stay longer, which brings a smile and a blush to River's face as he happily agrees. Could they just make River the bad guy so we can move on from him? Meanwhile, Rod has finished his conversation with the Emperor and is now hurrying to find Dalia because he's quite concerned, as he truly believes she isn't feeling well. The way he sees through her, plus points for my boy! But Rod feels his heart sink when he notices River gently holding a sleeping Dalia in his arms. Rod quickly orders River to hand over Dalia, but River responds that she's not a thing he can just order around. He also points out that Dalia wasn't feeling well and asks Rod where he was when she needed help. River wants to avoid any more arguments for Dalia's sake, and with the possibility of the nobles starting another rumor, he chooses to hand Dalia over to Rod. Rod believed that remaining friends was the best choice, but now, as he holds Dalia close, he truly doesn't want to let go of this lovely warmth he's experiencing. He is now blushing and looking really worried as he feels conflicted about what to do next. When Dalia wakes up the next morning, her parents become frantic about what happened to her, while she is perplexed to discover that she fainted and has no memory of how she got home. However, she is surprised to learn that Rod brought her home. Her mind then begins to replay images of River from last night, and since he has everything she wants, she is considering proposing to him. She's super fearless! Before then, she has one major issue to deal with. Her aunt, Marchioness Myers, is forming a group to compete with her for the post of next head of House Avalon, since she wants her son to be the next duke. Her aunt is her father's sister, and she is a very capable woman, which is why his father entrusted her with the family and decided to become a knight. However, she fell in love with Marquess Myers and decided to become a Marchioness, prompting her father to use a chance to become the Avalon family's successor in order to marry her mother. Dalia finds this suspicious because her aunt is not the type of person who's thirsty for power, making her concerned that this is tied to the unknown person who has been targeting her family. She shrugs it off for the time being and focuses on protecting her position as the future heir, which will be determined by the performance of the trade company. She plans on using her special card, the Mind of the Felitos Mountains, but Lowell informs her that the title competition will be about accommodation, requiring her to run an inn. Dalia is now losing her mind, while Jaren is simply watching her and commenting on how terrible this is, given that tourism and lodging are currently in a drop. There was a travel craze once, so House Avalon purchased a few hotels to keep up with the trend, but it swiftly faded. Jaren, the strategist, presents her two options: the easy route, which will take longer, or the hard way, which will take less time. Dalia, the shameless girl that she is, smiles and says she wants the easy and quick way. Same girl, same. Jaren sighs and decides to simply explain both options. The first one is to extensively rebuild the inn, making it more public-friendly until its name becomes established, which will undoubtedly take some time. The second option is to acquire business rights to Beloa, the continent's largest port city. It is the maritime center of the Hessen Kingdom, connecting to several countries. But because it is more famous than the kingdom itself, the people refer to it as the Beloa Kingdom. Building an inn there will undoubtedly be successful, but Jaren informs her that she will have to compete with the youngest son of House Rubabel, who also wants business rights. The youngest son may have average talents, but he has a wide network that includes the Prince of the Hessen Kingdom. But Jaren believes Dalia still has a chance to win because the king has been delaying the business license. Dalia becomes dizzy when she recalls that in the story, the king's youngest daughter suffers from an incurable sickness, which gives her confidence that she can persuade the king to grant her business rights. No one knows what his daughter's illness is, but as someone who has read the story, she knows it as mana deficiency syndrome. It is a condition that can cause someone to die slowly, but the solution is simple. They require magic mineral sap. However, her current challenge is obtaining this magical mineral, which can be located in the northern forest of darkness. This reminds her that with winter approaching, Rod will have to head back north, and that thought is making her feel a bit sad. Since she fainted during the party, Rodrik has been sending different captains to her house, which she appreciates but finds uncomfortable, and she wishes Rod would just come himself if he's so worried about her. Today is Leona's turn, and Dalia discovers that the northern forest has become dangerously overrun with high-ranking monsters. So the Emperor decides to provide the Bowsers with reinforcements. Leona thinks it's not necessary, while Dalia feels this is part of the Emperor's plan to have Rod as his son-in-law. A knight from the Imperial Palace insists on Rod leaving for the north as soon as possible, but our guy here refuses because he has already stated that he'll go in the winter. The knight emphasizes that this is a direct order from the Emperor, prompting Rod to question what will happen if he disobeys it. Is he brave enough to draw his sword in front of him and his captains? This causes the poor knight to get scared and run for his life. Rod wants to stay a little longer because he's concerned that if he doesn't take action now, he and Dalia might drift apart and end up feeling awkward around each other. Above all, he really doesn't want to think about River coming between them, so there's no way he will leave. Finally, it's about time to get it together, mister! Today, Dalia feels a wave of happiness as she receives a letter from River, but her heart sinks a little when she reads at the bottom that he'll be joining the expedition team heading north. She happily lets Jaren know that she plans to follow River to the north, and shyly mentions that she might return as a family. She even invites Jaren to join her since it could be fun to collect magical mineral sap together, but he declines and states that he isn't fond of River. Jaren gets serious and mentions how strange it is that River keeps running into her. He's heard that the current Duke Goldman is quite power-hungry, so he feels something might be off and advises Dalia to stay cautious. It's great to see that Dalia is staying level-headed and is on the same page as Jaren about being cautious. He must be involved with that group that's working to take down Avalon, right? Such a manipulative bastard! Thank goodness our girl has a sharp bestie. Dalia then goes to Hestia and informs her that she must create a cure for mana deficiency, but she does not have to worry because she will travel to the north to obtain magical mineral sap. When Hestia learns that Dalia will be staying with the Bowsers, she immediately declares herself a dating expert before requesting Dalia to take her with her to the north. Honestly, whatever goes down in the north is gonna be exciting. So guys, what do you think of this story so far? Please subscribe and turn on notifications for updates on this and all our other stories, so you can be the first to find out when they're out. Thank you so much for your support. See you in the next one!